I'm going to be talking about words on quilts. I have already spoken about and showed you how to do simple big letter words on quilts, like the Joy quilt over here, and how fairly easy that one is to do. But if you would like to do more words on quilts or words on quilts, there is more information on my website. It's under tutorials, and then under that I think it's called maybe word applique. But if you look there, you'll find something that says word applique the easy way. And that's basically what I'm going to be going by today. Here's my copies of that. Because I think it's very fun to be able to put words onto quilts. And I've done several, and here are some of my examples. Love One Another is a Prestone Link quilt, which just has 3 words on it. This is my Christmas quilt called The Gift to God, or For God So Loved the World, words. And then this one is a popular one and actually belongs to my library. Never judge a book by its movie. Notice the words on the quilts have some things in common. When I put words on quilts, I am not going to put paragraphs or anything. So my suggestion is keep it simple. The fewer words, the better, the easier. Here I've only 3, 6. The other thing is when you're putting words on quilts, if you're trying to use printed words, it's more difficult to line the words up to get printed letters on a neat line, because we're laying them down, we're fusing them. So I found it's better, or it's easier to use cursive writing or to link your words together. So if you would like to put words on quilts, the first thing that I do is, of course, decide what your word is going to be, and then decide if you want to write it yourself or use a computer font. That works also. And before I do any searching, if I think I'm going to write it by myself, I take a piece of freezer paper, and on the rough side, the paper side, I make 2, like a top line and a bottom line, and then a dotted line in the middle. Think back to when you learned to do cursive writing in school. This was kind of what we had to start with. And there's 2 different sizes here. I forget, this is like 3 inches top to bottom, and then a dotted line. I think the bottom one is a little smaller. Basically, you want to make the lines and make a dotted line, and this is just to guide you in your sizing and everything. It's best if you do, after you make your lines, if you go over them with a dark black magic marker. And then you can lay them down, and you can put a plain piece of white paper over the top, and you can practice your writing. And for me, I started out what I wanted to write on my next quilt here, which is my Joy quilt that I'm putting different letters on. My words were going to be showers of blessing. 3 words, didn't think that'd be too hard. So I took this, and a paper like this, and just with my hand started writing blessings. But then once you have something written, then you have to make sure that you keep going over it to make it wider. So you make each letter wide enough. You do not want to have skinny letters. So notice each of these have about, maybe a 1/4 inch for the lines. So I did that, and I thought that, you know, I can make that. Here's one that I did. But if you're doing printing, you have to make the letters go together, hook together. So I stuck the L and the E together and S. Anyway, I decided, I'm not sure I like the way that looked. So then I went to cursive writing, and here's some, it takes a while to figure out what you want. Now, this is actually not the proper S for cursive writing, but it was what would work. And go over and erase, and then when you get one that you like, that's the one that you're going to use. And then if you still are having problems, it's even easier if you go to your computer and find a computer font that's big and kind of looks like what you think you could work with. Here is what I found, and no, it doesn't actually fit. My didn't fit on there, but that's okay. And so I took this and laid it down and put a plain sheet on top. I don't know what happened to that one. And just, here we go. I just went over it with my pencil and erased, made sure everything hooked together, made sure the letters were fairly chubby letters. And thought, okay, I think I can go with this. I had to put the of down at the bottom because I wanted to make sure I had it all. So that's the other way to do it. Once you get your letters printed or down on paper, then you're going to take a piece of freezer paper, a fresh piece of freezer paper, and you're going to write, or lay your letters down, and if they're in dark print, that's good. If mine were just in pencil, so I had to put this on top of my light box, which is fine. Lay a piece of freezer paper on top and just trace. Once I have my word traced on freezer paper, and this is the word I picked, blessings, it's traced in pencil on freezer paper. The next step is to cut this freezer paper word out but not cut each letter out. You're just gonna cut this out in sort of a big hunk. And I'm going to cut it. Sorry, my cutting is not very good here. And when I did the real thing, okay. So, cut this out of freezer paper. Blessings. The shiny side of the freezer paper is on the back. The fabric that I used for my words was different, but just to show you, here's a piece of fabric. And on the back of the fabric, just pretending I'm going to use this pink fabric, on the back I added a piece of Steam-A-Seam 2 Light. Just pressed it down because I'm going to put the letters on the top. So I am going to take this to the ironing board now, and I'm going to press it with an iron. And I'm going to press it with a dry iron. And basically, we just want to make sure it's sticking down. Your freezer paper will stick it to your fabric if your iron is hot. There we go. I think I left my iron sit for a minute. That's there. It's still not hot, but it doesn't matter on that section. And then I'm going to cut this out with sharp scissors, cutting all 3 layers. The freezer paper, the fabric, and the steam machine, which is still coming up again. But if you have a hot iron, this won't come up. Cut them out with your sharp scissors. When I cut them, I usually cut like around here and then come up to the top. And if they start to peel up a little bit, you can put them on the ironing board again and press again. And make sure you don't lose your O, or you can just, the dot of the I, you can get it from anywhere. And then you will have your word ready to go. My word was in a different color. My word was in white fabric, but this word you would be able to see very well because it has pink fabric. So that's the next step. Then we move on to applying it to our background, the background of the quilt. Hard at all. Usually you just fuse them down, and with a hot dry iron, you can use steam when you fuse them down. You can fuse them down, and then just when you have them all done, you can move on to the rest of your quilt. What I usually do at the end, when my quilt is put together, then I take my, put my feed dogs down, use my free motion foot, and I just go up and around and down just to tack down the outside edges. It's not terribly hard. It keeps them down. That's all we need. These are probably not going to be washed, so it works. For my quilt though, this time for this quilt, I kept putting these words onto my background, and I just did not like them. I did not like them. So I thought, I think I can make this work. And now I have a big tip that I always use, and I tell everyone this. Give yourself time to look at a quilt. If you don't like something, let it sit, let it sit, let it sit, come back another day, wait a day or two. Well, finally, I got to the place where I thought, okay, I think I will, rather than put the 3 words, I am going to put the words in, well, I'm going to put the words in clouds, because if they were in clouds, that gives the idea of showers, right? So I decided, well, I'm going to start with the blessings. Too many clouds might be a little much. So I'm going to start with blessings. Let me show you what I ended up with. And then I will tell you what I learned. Always we learn something, don't we? Here is my blessings quilt. And the word is under in the cloud, just like I did. I could fuse that down, and then I thought, well, it just looks too bare, so I'm going to put this cloud around it. The cloud, I decided, needed to be a little darker fabric, so this is the fabric that I used for my cloud right here. It's a little grayer. I probably even could have gone a little more gray, I think. So in order to do that, I just laid a piece of paper down on top of my word and drew a cloud around it, and then drew about 1/2 inch outside it. Now, when you put this on fusible, you got to put it upside down so that you have the fusible on the back side of your fabric. But, so then I have my cloud all ready to go, and I thought, well, before I put the cloud outside on there, that I want some different fabric inside. I have a good selection of fabrics that are not what you call quilt fabrics. And this is one. See how pretty this is? It's just I've used this for bubbles before. It's white and it's shiny, and I thought, oh, that kind of looks like cloud material. And so I was going to use that, and then I found this, and I thought, oh, this is even nicer. It's kind of actually it does have little holes in here. Here's a smaller piece. Oh, isn't this nice? You can rather see those words really clear through there. So all I have to do is make the cloud and stick the cloud onto this, and then cut it out, and then lay this down on my on top of my word that was already on the quilt. I could do that. It was a little tricky. When I did it, it's much easier if you lay the cloud on a big hunk and then cut around the outside. Okay, I managed to do that. Oh, that's gonna look okay. And then I thought, well, how hard's that gonna be? I am going to press this down and sew around it, and it's going to be grand. Luckily, it hit my head before I started doing too much pressing that this fabric, when you put a hot iron on this, even if it's a hot iron, dry iron, it burns it, and it just shrivels it up into a little piece of plastic. So it's a good thing I thought of that before I did. So what I did was I put a little bit, let me use this too. Before I stick him on top for good, I put a little bit of like a line of glue all the way around the inside of this. And then I laid him down on top of this. And then I thought, well, you know, I don't know if that's going to hold enough until I get it to the sewing machine, because I don't want it to move. So I used my itty bitty iron like this very carefully on the outside. After I did that, I took it to the sewing machine, and this time I stitched around with a blanket stitch on the outside here. I did a straight stitch on the inside here. And then I thought, well, you know what I should have done? I should have stitched my words down before I even put this business on top, because who knows, you know, maybe they could loosen up and then they would be. So that was not my smartest plan, but it's okay. I went and took a white thread, matching thread, and I went and just did that machine stitching, free motion, just around the edges of this. And that also kind of holds this down. Now, I don't think that I would ever wash this, and I try not to get it in the heat and all of that. I'm going to have to watch. But it's on there. It's something you can do. It's a way to do what you want to do. So now, and I'm going to have to figure out what blessings I'm going to put on my quilt, but they should be easy after doing these words. I would not suggest doing this if this is your first time putting words on, but it does show you that you can do lots of different things with words on quilts.